revealed himself again. That means he manifested himself. He told his disciples to go before him in Galilee. But the Bible says that Jesus, he appeared unto them again. There's somebody in here, you need God to do it again. He healed you one time, you need him to do it again. He gave you peace of mind one time, but you need peace of mind again. Somebody shout again, again. I need a fresh revelation. I need God to do it again. I got a little weary. I need him to touch me again. He gave me a job one time, but I need him to do it again. I need God to fix some family relationship. I need God to fix some things in my finances. He did it one time. I need him to do it again. Is there anybody in here? You need God to do it. Somebody shout again. Somebody shout again. If he blessed you before, he can bless you again. If he extended mercy to you before, he can extend mercy to you again. If God opened up a door in the past, he can open up a door again. If God fixed some things in your life and now they're broken, God can fix it again. Somebody shout again. Would you put your hands together and thank God for again? I'm so glad that we serve a God that he can do it. Somebody shout again. Somebody shout again. I'm so glad that we serve a God that he has not forgotten about us, but I need him to do it again. I need him to touch me again. I need him to smile upon me again. I need a fresh word of somebody shout again, again. Look at what the scripture says. This is interesting because Jesus, he showed himself again to his disciples. And notice that it says at the Sea of Tiberias. In scripture, this Sea of Tiberias is known as the Sea of Chinneroth. It's known as Lake Gennesaret. It's a particular body of water that Jesus ministered to. And this particular body of water is called the Sea of Tiberias because this is where they named a little city that was planted on the west side of the sea. They named it after the Caesar, after the Roman Emperor Tiberius, or they named it after their oppressor. And the reason why I'm bringing this out is because I've noticed that God can bless you the most when you are being oppressed the most. It's an interesting thing about God that this particular area of my life is totally being afflicted, and yet God is blessing me over here that will balance the things out. That's why the scripture says all things work together for good to them that love God and to them that are the called according to his purpose. You see, this particular body of water is so critical because this is where he grabbed Simon Peter, and this is where he grabbed Andrew. This is where he grabbed the sons of Zebedee, and he said, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. The Bible says immediately they left their nets and they followed Jesus. This is the same place, the Sea of Tiberias, where Jesus told them, go to the other side. They got on the ship and went to the other side, and a storm broke out. But here comes Jesus on the fourth watch of the night, walking on water. He said, be not afraid, because they were scared to death. And Peter said, Lord, if it be you, bid me to come. Now wait a minute. I know people always talk about Peter's son, but nobody talks about that he had some step where he defied gravity and he began to walk on water. Somebody shout the Sea of Tiberias. See, this is critical because this is where when Jesus was ministering, they came to Peter and they said, Peter, does your master pay tribute, temple tax? And Peter said, of course he does. As Peter started to go into the house, Jesus prevented him and said, Simon Peter, to whom do men take custom and tribute? Do they take it from strangers or of their own children? And Peter said, of course, they take it from strangers, not their own children. He said, that is so right. He said, notwithstanding, lest we should offend. In other words, Jesus, the temple was about him. He shouldn't have to pay temple tax, but he said, notwithstanding, lest we should offend him. He said, Peter, this is what I want you to do. Since you are a professional fisherman, I want you to go down to the sea. He said, cast a hook. And he said, the first fish that cometh up, he said, when you take up that first fish, open up his mouth, and you're going to find a piece of, I come to tell you, God is getting ready here that you're standing in need of a financial blessing. You're standing in need of a financial breakthrough. And God brought me here to tell you that today you are going to find a piece of money. I don't know if it's going to come in a phone call. I don't know if it's going to come in the mail. I don't know if you're going to go to work tomorrow and they're going to give you a $15,000. I don't know. But you're going to find it. A piece. Don't forget to pay your tithes on that money too. Somebody shout hallelujah. So the scripture says in verse 1, he showed himself on this wise. And I want you to notice verse 2, it says they were together and he says Simon Peter. Now the reason why this is critical is because Simon, that was his birth name. Peter was the name that God gave him when he first met him. Andrew was the one who said, I found the Messiah. He brings his brother Simon to Jesus, and Jesus immediately calls him. He says, I know your name is Simon, but you shall be called Cephas, which is by interpretation a stone. Somebody shout hallelujah. In other words, what God has been trying to do in the life of Peter is bring the rock out of the instability. What God is trying to do in the life of Peter is bring him to a state of solidness and rock steadiness. Somebody shout hallelujah. In other words, God says, I'm going to do for you what your name implies. I named you. You're not just going to be called Simon, but by the time I finish with you, you're going to be every bit solid. You are going to be the rock man. You are going to be solid as a rock. I came to prophesy that what God has called you, it shall come to pass. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what it looks like. When God gets finishing with you, you are going to be exactly what he intended you to be. The scripture says, even Jesus told Simon, he said, Simon, behold, Satan desired to sift you as wheat, but he said, I have prayed for you that when you are converted, he didn't say if you were converted, he said, look, I'm here to tell you, you're not going to stay in that bad position your entire life. You're going to come out of it, and when you come out of it, you're going to be strong. Your finances are going to be strong. Your ministry is going to be strong. Your money is going to be strong. Your family is going to be strong. Your business is going to be strong. I think I'm pouring y'all half to death, so let me hurry up and finish y'all. I want to go verse by verse. Somebody shout Simon Peter. Shout Simon Peter. I'm going to make you a rock man when the dust settles, you're going to be solid as a rock. You're going to be stable because you're going to be a pillar in the church. Put your hands together and give God a praise for that. Hallelujah. Notice what he says. Not only does he say Simon Peter, but he says Thomas, which is called Didymus. If you look up the Greek word Thomas, it means twin. If you look up the Greek word Didymus, it means twin. If you look it up in Hebrew, it means twin. It doesn't necessarily mean that he had an identical twin, but his name was called Twin, his nickname was called Twin, his surname was called Twin. The reason why God is bringing that out is because we don't like to talk about it, but there's actually two people living in one house. There's the good of you that praises the Lord, and then there's another side of you that if we catch you at a red light, the light turned green, you can ready to curse the person out. I can't get no hope here. God is just saying that there's two sides of you that he needs to get delivered. You've heard of that. You've heard of the expression, doubting Thomas. Thomas got a bad report. But can I tell you something? In John chapter 11, when Lazarus was dying, when Lazarus was dead, and Jesus said, for your sake, I'm glad he wasn't there, but we're going to go to him. This is what Thomas Didymus said. He said, let us also go die with him. That don't sound like nobody that don't have no faith. Thomas was a man who had faith, but Thomas was the one who said, he wasn't there during the prayer meeting. He missed it. He should have been at the church, but he did not go. Therefore, when Jesus manifested himself, he wasn't there. But look how good God was. God waited, hallelujah, 8 days later. Somebody shout 8 days later. 8 days later, while all the apostles were together in a room. Let me tell you what Jesus did without knocking on the door, without ringing the doorbell, without moving the hinges off the door. Jesus just walked in the room invested in you.
Amen.
I'll be the first to admit that I'm like Thomas Didymus because I'm remedial. What it might take you 2 hours to get, sometimes it might take me 3 months to get. I can't get no help in here. The only thing I can tell you is that when I got it, I got it. Hallelujah. And when I got it, you can't take it away from me. And you should sing this song. You can't make me doubt him. I know too much. When you get to that point, can't nobody change your mind.
Amen.
Somebody shout hallelujah. Nathaniel, and Nathaniel is somebody we need to talk about because he was a prejudiced guy. He was a racial biased individual. Black, white, Indian, red, it don't make no difference. He was just racially biased because he was the one that said, can any good thing come out of Nazareth, where Jesus was born? Somebody shout out, where Jesus was reared. What good could come out of Nazareth? And yet, does it dawn on us that Jesus doesn't care about what type of background or what type of instability you have? Because he is there to prove to you when the dust settles, he's going to make you every bit the man and the woman of God that he originally called you. See, this is what I love, because when people write you off, God can write you in. Sometimes when people throw you away, and kick you to the side, it's just God will use that as a vehicle to put you in his grace and put you in his hand. That's why I love God. That's why you can never give up on anybody. As long as they got breath in their body, there's always a sense of hope. Somebody shout hallelujah. So listen, the scripture says it was Simon Peter, it was Thomas Didymus, it was Nathaniel, it was the 2 sons of Zebedee, John and James. They were known by the name of their father because their father had such an influence on their life that they're called the sons of Zebedee. In fact, when Jesus called them, he said, you're going to be called the son of Boanerges, the sons of thunder by the time I get finished with you. Somebody shout hallelujah. And then you've got these 2 other individuals that I don't know anything about, and it ain't make no sense trying to describe or explain who they could possibly be. It's not mentioned, so let's not go there. But let me tell you something. I think there's something prophetic about the number of disciples on this particular occasion. We've got Simon Peter, that's 1. We've got Thomas Didymus, that's 2. We've got Nathaniel, that's 3. We've got the 2 sons of Zebedee, that's 5. And we got 2 other disciples, that's 7. 7 is the number of completion. 7 is the number of perfection. I believe God brought us here because God is going to bring total deliverance and total healing and total wholeness to your life and to your spirit. It's not just the fact who they were, it's the fact that there were 7, because God is getting ready to do a complete miracle, a bona fide whole type of miracle. Somebody shout hallelujah. When you start talking about the number 7, God put 7 right in your head. There's 2 eyes, 2 holes in your nose, 2 ears on the side of your head, and 1 mouth. Look at God. They used to tell me in culinary school that in order to have a perfect setting, you got 7 items. You got the dish of the sauce, you got the plate, you got the fork, you got knives, and you got a spoon, you got 2 forks, and you got a glass. Somebody shout 7. I'm telling you, they tell me in music that if you can really sing, there are actually 7. There's the bass, there's the baritone, there's the tenor, there's the alto, the contralto, soprano, and mezzo-soprano. 7. If you can hit all 7 of those notes, they say that you're really a great singer. But let me tell you about 7. The scripture says Joshua, he walked around Jericho for 6 days, but on the 7th day, hallelujah, he walked around 7 times, and on the 7th time, the whole city, the wall started to fall down. Somebody shout 7, 7, 7, 7. You need to prepare yourself because God is getting ready to perfect that which concerneth you. 7, you better prepare yourself because God is getting ready to give you a complete miracle that even the doctors will be baffled. You know, that's one thing. The doctor can say one thing, your body can say something totally different, but when God steps in it,
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
7 individuals. And notice what Peter says. Peter says, I'm going fishing. I'm going fishing. Fishing is more than just getting on a boat with the fishing line and with some bait. He said, I'm going fishing. I'm going fishing. Even after Christ appeared to him, he said, I'm still going fishing because I'm not sure. And sometimes we go back to what's familiar to us, when we don't understand the uncertainty regarding the vicissitudes of life. So we go back to what we're comfortable with. In other words, Simon Peter was a professional fisherman. He was in business. He had fleets of ships. And he said, I'm going back to what I'm comfortable with. He said, I go a-fishing. I just need to go somewhere where I'm comfortable with. I need to go back to what I'm an expert in. I need to go back to something that I can pass. I need to go back to something that I can be comfortable with. Can I tell you, this is where the transition comes? Because God is making a transition. That's why some of us are on edge right now, because things are not going right. It's just that God has us on the urge. He has us on the verge of transition. Somebody shout transition. This is why Paul said, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your body a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Somebody shout transition. God is getting ready to transform us. You can lift all the weights you want, and you can still be a big dummy unless you get your mind transitioned, unless you think different about yourself, unless you perceive different about yourself. Would you tell somebody, I'm on the verge of a transformation? I'm getting ready to transform, baby. This is 2019. I'm getting ready to transform. I'm getting ready to go from a caterpillar to a butterfly. I'm getting ready to transform like Aaron's rod that budded and barn blossom. I'm getting to transform like a stick that Moses had, where he threw it out, it turned into a snake. He picked it back up and it turned into a stick. I'm getting ready to transform. You ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen the best of me yet. God is transforming.